Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino. Kentucky Derby Day. And if I don't win my bet, you know I want one of the horses not on the T-shirt to win the Kentucky Derby again, because there's pandemonium in the T-shirt business.
What were the chances of this when we did the seminar Wednesday night? If somebody had said to me, yeah, by Friday morning, there will only be 19 horses and all of the also eligibles will be in, I would have said, that would have been the worst bet of Derby week for me at that point.
Well, you were smart when, we're talking pre-production. You said, listen, we got to go through all the AEs. Well, you're right. But, we didn't do a very thorough job. I mean, I didn't really like any horse outside of 15. You like Mandarin Hero, so you're in. I'm not so sure I like the 15 at all anymore. That's Forte going forward. We have plenty of time to get to that. Obviously, for the general public, as much as it cringes me to say this is the biggest day of the year for horse racing. The racing is going to be fantastic. The wagering opportunities are as good as it gets throughout the day. So come on down. I mean, it's an American celebration. Weather was beautiful yesterday. 106,000 people. Be probably, I don't know, what is it, $170, $175? I don't
think they'll usually.
I mean, maybe the day's coming, they're going to have 200,000 next year. Who knows? Let's quickly talk about the Oaks yesterday. The 405 exacta for yours truly. I said on the seminar, we did it first. Through the first pass through, Pretty Mischievous and Wonder Wheel were my two horses. Pretty Mischievous was outside. When I went back through it, I like Gambling Girl, who I thought was a winner at the 8th pole. She flattened out, but did hold on for the backward exacta coming in. Listen, I mean, I get a lot more wrong than I get right, but, Wet Paint, I'm like, what has she ever done on a clear, fast racetrack that makes her that? And the other thing that I got right was they were kind of clumped up front. And the one to Flying Connection, I said, she'll be the actual speed of them. And nobody had any kick at the end. I thought it was a very suspect field. And I really thought Gambling Girl could pick them up. And I thought she was going to. But then she just leveled out. I mean, she had nothing the last and was lucky, actually, I think, to hold on to second. So that got the weekend off to a good start. But Pretty Mischievous, a comfortable winner of what I thought was a pretty soft edition of the Kentucky Oaks, except from a wagering standpoint. But this was clearly
leading into
not one of the better ones.
Wet Paint got a lot of buzz, and I thought deservedly so coming into it until the field was picked, and you looked at the PPs, and I agreed with you. I think I had her in the third spot. She was not a standout and ran to that.
I'm going to tell you what really keyed me off to her being a negative was when she beat Taxed, and Tax was the first also eligible. Tax took the overland route in the fantasy and got all the worst of it. And Wet Paint got the garden trip up the inside to win. And I'm like, well, Tax is the first also eligible. And I would like her in a head-to-head against Wet Paint. And Wet Paint is the favorite. To me, that's not the way you make money in the game. And I was like, well, if Tax doesn't even draw into the field, you're out. So, I was surprised the Alice look, who we saw Alice on the program, and they showed the picture of the look. She finished third, right?
Third, yeah.
Yeah, that killed my trifecta.
30-1.
Killed my trifecta.
Darth Vader ran well to run fifth in there. Wet Paint was fourth as the favorite. Wonder Wheel.
Oh, and I love Rosario, but there is no way that was the ride Mark Casse wanted. He had those sharp works going into this race, 3 sharp works, and that was not the trip he was hoping, I believe, for Wonder Wheel. So, good job. I mean, Pretty Mischievous. I guess she goes to the head of the class, Absolutely. Whatever that means. But I think when history is written on this Kentucky Oaks, it will not be a top 10er. But 405 for an exacta that I thought figured. I'm like, there you go. I mean, Gambling Girl, she was up against it. That pace was horrible in the Gazelle, and she still ran well for Todd Pletcher. So it's Derby Day. It's 14. Heck, it's almost post time at Churchill Downs. So
open here at the Racebook at 9 a.m. Keep that in mind if you'd like to come down to the
bagels?
Racebook. We'd love to have you.
Bagels?
But that's a good question. I do not know. But
It's
I do
morning. Morning. It's one of the
I
few.
do know at 4 o'clock today,
4?
they will pick. Everybody who comes in gets an entry form, put your name in the hat. 4 o'clock, they will pick one lucky patron who will get a $100 Derby bet. So
Truly free money.
that'll be fun.
A tremendous card. I mean, you would expect nothing else. I don't know how horizontals get through a day like this, Seth. Good luck to them. I mean, it's great. It's
if you do get through, you're going to get paid.
yes, there's and this is the one time, and it's true in the Breeders' Cup Day also. It's one time that if you have 2 or 3 favorites in the pick 5 or something, you're still getting paid. I mean, it's just such an enormous. That's the part that I love about Derby Day. We'll see if we get a winner. But are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 10:30 post time again. What else?
I had pulled up the
The what? More scratches?
no, I had the no. What did I do with it? I just had them. Did I? I had pulled up the early odds. Let me see.
Oh, okay. I already saw those. So I mean,
I was just going to run through.
Now, I didn't look up the double prices because I'm not involved. But I didn't see. Did anybody stick out to you? Angel of Empire is the second choice, right? And
no, I think Angel of Empire is actually the. Now last night it was a little bit different. Tapit Trice had become the clear second choice, but now Angel of Empire and Tapit Trice both sitting at 6-1. And I'm looking at the live odds on the Kentucky Derby website. Favored is Forte at 4-1. Derma Sotogaki is 8-1. And I think those are your only single digit. And
we kind of said that would be the wise guy horse.
Disarm, who I like, is at 27-1. Mandarin Hero, who I like and sneaks in from the A's, 26-1. But your favorite currently is Forte at 4-1.
All right, the opener is 6.5 furlongs, 3-year-olds, optional claimers, non-winners are 1.
1, 3, 5, and 8 for me. I'm going to put Extra Neho on top. Just mastering the obvious here off the debut last October for Steve Asmussen and Winchell. It was very impressive at Keeneland. Now comes back as a 3-year-old. You would have to think off of that. And you see the nominated for the Triple Crown symbol in there, and you would think off of that. They had high hopes for maybe a Triple Crown try or a try at the Triple Crown races. They certainly are missing the Derby, but they do show up on Derby Day for the 3-year-old debut. Obviously, there had to be some kind of a hiccup, but there's a string of workouts underneath, including that 59 flat leading into this that says probably comes back ready to roll. So put that one on top. Federal Judge for Rudy Brissett. Also very good looking in debut. A son of Army Mule and gets it done impressively. A little more recently than the top pick, having been April 1st down at Oaklawn. But again, a nice win and a solid number. Interesting to see what this one can do in the second career start. And Stud Lovin' in the 3rd spot. Nice looking debut. Follow-up was okay. But the number regressed notably. But it was on the turf at Kentucky Downs. Maybe the horse is a little more meant for the dirt. But those purses over at Kentucky Downs, if you have a horse that's eligible, they call out to you a little bit. Now comes back in the 3-year-old debut. Interesting race with 2 or 3 of these, particularly the 3 that I've mentioned, maybe having some futures on the 3-year-old side of things going forward this year. But I have it 1, 3, 5, and 8.
Yeah, we'll go through the non-stakes pretty quick. Oh, I will say one thing. Extra Neho was the 2-year-old that I was told would not debut at Saratoga, that those connections really liked, and obviously popped with a 92 in debut, and something went. But you can see by the breeding, Into Mischief Cyrus, the Oaks winner yesterday. I mean, it's just incomprehensible how good he is. I mean, the 2 horses to beat are the 2 horses we share. You just knowing me, I'm not going there. So Stud Lovin' was the horse I put on top, 5, 1, 3 in the opener.
Race number 2 this morning. go off at about 11 o'clock. These are
you get your early pick 4 in the morning.
Maiden specials going 8.5 furlongs.
3, 8, 9 for me. And just touching on Harbor Bridge is my top pick in here for Dallas Stewart. They had blinkers in the second start. When you take all things into consideration, for me, a Dallas Stewart runner on debut, the offspring of Justify, I'm very happy with that. I think most of us are aware, Dallas Stewart with firsters is not a big thing unless you want $70 winners, which is fine. So I'm happy with the debut. I'm putting it under the heading of practice. Now they add blinkers. We go forward. Quality Chic, number 8, with the veteran in the group for Ken McPeak, followed by a nice debut runner, Chloe's Dream. So 3, 8, 9 in the second.
I'm right with you for the same reasons. I mean, they paid well over $600,000 for this horse. It's Windstar and Company, potent connections, little trouble in the debut. I can see moving forward. So Harbor Bridge on top. I put Cape Trafalgar in the second spot. Has shown a little speed on occasion. I wouldn't be.
More stuff?
Well, it's a Safi Joseph horse. I just know I probably should have gone through it and done. Obviously, Cape Trafalgar is not in. So I'm now 3, 8, and 6.
Now, did they scratch them? Or did he voluntarily scratch
from
them?
The sound of things?
This is the Safi Joseph.
Before they suspended him indefinitely, he was planning to scratch a number of his horses, other than Lord Miles, I think. And so I think this one was probably already in the pipeline before decisions were made. But again, 3, 8, and 6 for me now.
Don't mess with their Kentucky Derby. On to the third, going a mile, optionals 80, non-wonders of 2 other than.
5, 1, 14, and 11.
Oh, we are all over the.
I'm going to put King Ottoman on top for Steve Asmussen. Seasonal debut was a really nice win down at Oak Lawn. This horse had already shown some ability as a 3-year-old, kind of as its second tier stakes quality 3-year-old in the Asmussen barn, as evidenced by a win in the Texas Derby and then third in the Indiana Derby, second in the Oklahoma Derby. So again, they were shopping their spots with this one, but showed some talent and then validated that in the 4-year-old debut. Bright future in the second spot for Todd Pletcher. 2 nice wins, bookending a third place finish, but I would think this one has the potential to live up to its name for Pletcher and Rapoli. And then in the third spot, I'm going out to the 14, Petulante, who has shown some ability in the first 4 starts of the career, a couple of wins and a couple of second-place finishes. Going to have to negotiate from the outside, but has plenty of backstretch to work with. Third race, I have at 5, 1, 14, and 11.
We saw 14 win the 2-turn Oaks yesterday, so this is less to the I'm 14, 5, and 1.
Race number 4, we start out
the
stakes action, and it also start a pick 5. Keep that in mind in race 4. The Derby City Distaff going 7 furlongs.
The old Humana. A nice contest. I said this on the seminar. I was, I'm against Goodnight Olive. I have it for second, but I have Hot and Sultry for Norm Cassie, whose runner was pretty blah yesterday in the Kentucky Oaks. Yeah. It was like,
I like that.
That was like thud.
Yeah.
But Hot and Sultry comes out of the Apple Blossom, 2 turns, quick turnaround, cut back, going 7/8. Yes, we're down inside. I'll take my chances for the upset with Joel Rosario. Goodnight Olive, who has really, done nothing wrong in the career, and that includes getting beat on debut as the favorite back in 21, has won 7 consecutive races. She's the champ. She's already won this year. And Matarea for third, looking for a small upset here in that Derby City Distaff 1, 2, 5.
I just couldn't get past Goodnight Olive. I mean, if this had been the seasonal debut, I might have taken a pop, but given what she did in the Madison, I think she comes back as good as when she left. I mean, the number regressed a little bit slightly from the last couple of starts, but again, it was the seasonal debut. Hot Sultry in the second spot. Nice try in the Apple Blossom. I think the cutback's interesting this afternoon. And Matarea in the third spot for Brad Cox, coming in off a seasonal debut that I would think bodes well for moving forward. Fourth race, the Derby City Distaff, 2-1.
You know what I like about Goodnight Olive? She was a throwback in that she ran through allowance conditions for Chad, which is so atypical now. You might wheel back to a 2X. You might reel back to a rare 3X out there, but she never went to stakes company until Chad got her going, and then she got a championship. On to the fifth before our first break. Onto the turf. I alluded to this race also the other night on the seminar. This is the Distaff Turf Mile, and I will say, and it's one of my big chagrins on the game, I despise I hate that they had the rails up yesterday on the turf course for the big racing yesterday. And I'm sure they're going to be down today. But my point is, nobody that I know that follows this game closely believes the teletimer when the rails are up, and they shouldn't be up on the weekends for big races. They just, it's a disservice. Have them up on, Monday through Friday, but take them down. I'm sure they're coming down today. And it was only, it's coming down today. But yesterday to me was as big a day, so it should have been down. But they're going to be down today. And I think that matters sometimes. Those first two paths are going to be firm, so go at it.
I went with Spenderella 5-7-4-2. I looked around, but boy, she just has been so phenomenal for Grand Motion. I like Caraconte as a sire. She lived up to that in the first start of the career, winning at 7-1, living up to that sire. Subsequently won 4 of her 5 starts. The only loss over Royal Ascot, runs a good second. So again, she's just been phenomenal so far. She does make the 4-year-old debut, and so goes against older for the first time. But boy, she has looked awfully good so far. So I looked around, landed on her though. But Fluffy Socks, I think, is playable for Chad. Certainly showed ability last year, particularly up at Saratoga, running the triple-digit buyer. Did it with the second place finish though. A little bit light on the win end when you look at the record overall, but it is Chad Brown, and you may get a little bit of value. Irad Ortiz on board, and Wakanaka, who ran in this race last year and wound up running third last year behind Speak of the Devil. And because of that, I was kind of going back and forth with those two, but I wound up tilting a little towards Wakanaka, put Speak of the Devil down in the 4th spot. 5-7-4-2.
When the summertime comes, obviously Saratoga is like a big vacuum, but Spenderella was terrific in the Del Mar Oaks. That was her last race. But this is what I don't get, Seth. She has like the worst buyer numbers in this field, and she's the 7-5 chalk. Almost everybody except the 8, and that's because it has a better buyer speed figure than she's ever accomplished. I don't think I've ever seen this before since the buyers have been out. Her buyers are terrible compared to the field, and she's taking on elders for the first time. She might win by 5, but not with me. To me,
my thought on that, or my answer to that, would be
she's 98 today.
She's winning by daylight, so how much faster is she going to go necessarily? But also, it's a lightly raced horse coming back now as a 4-year-old. I could easily see her number going forward.
Fluffy Socks ran 100
once, though, and second. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing if you're handicapping that way. We will see more this afternoon, but I think it's possible she steps forward.
I love Speak of the Devil. I wish there was a head-to-head. I mean, she ran almost 100 at Churchill Downs off the layoff, and I think she runs huge today. I talked about this race where she just throttled in Italian last year in this same race. And listen, she runs anywhere near that 98. I don't think they're catching her. I have Spenderella, who I think is in the mix here, but at 7-5, no thank you. Then Hardy for Chad Brown. Another horse coming off of a 95 in the Lake Placid, which is run just about the same time. As a matter of fact, they were running the same day on different coasts where Spenderella won. So very interesting to see. I'll be interested to see how they bet, because I'm like,
you're exactly right. As you were talking, I was thinking
Speak of the Devil, and
on consistent numbers, Fluffy Socks is probably the direction to go.
Right.
But,
and she's 9-2.
And normally, and I say it all the time, the betting public focuses, but I just don't think anybody's consistently tossing numbers that you can hang your hat on in this race. So. All right. Before we go to the break, I'm going to toss out a dark horse play of the day. We haven't had the dark horse folks on board since Saratoga, but happy to have them on board throughout the Triple Crown season. The dark horse Mercantile up in Saratoga. You see there, the smart bet is always the dark horse. If you're up in Saratoga, and it's that time of year where the weather's getting nice, Saratoga has a nice strollable downtown. If you're headed up for lunch or dinner sometime, swing by the Dark Horse Mercantile and their sister store just down the street, Impressions, Dark Horse, with some racing memorabilia and apparel. A lot of great Saratoga items over at Impressions of Saratoga. So again, happy to have them on board. And on Saturdays and Sundays through the Triple Crown season, I'll be tossing out some thoughts. How could I not make my dark horse in the Kentucky Derby? I had to. So I'm going to use the price horse I have in the Derby as my dark horse play of the day. That's number 11, Disarm. Disarm, only 5 starts so far. And, I said Disarm was a price. And let me just
37.
Pull it up again. Disarm
28
is, I think I said 28. Yeah, 27.
Yeah.
30 to 1 on the morning line, 27 to 1 now. And part of that is the third place finish in the Lexington, which I think darkens the form. But I think if you read into that and you follow the game enough, they needed points to get in the Derby. And the third place finish just got them in. But subsequent to
apparently not.
Well, yeah, little did they know.
No, that almost zero gets you in.
Yeah, little did they know.
Imagine that'll be the best trivia question ever. That 0 points would have gotten you in this year.
What is the last horse on the list?
There's a spot open.
Well, but you would move down the list to the next points though. But I'm thinking it's probably got to be 20, right? I mean, it's definitely
there's a spot open.
Yeah, you're definitely right that they didn't actually need the Lexington points, but at that point they thought they did, so they got the third place finish. They got in, but it was interesting. Subsequently, a week, 2 weeks ago, Asmussen and Winchell, the team behind Disarm, won a win and you're in for the Preakness at Oaklawn, and Steve Asmussen was asked, you going to the Preakness? Obviously, you got the win, and he said, let's see what our Derby horse does. And I thought, yeah, that showed a little bit of confidence in Disarm. So at a price, Joel Rosario on board for Steve Asmussen. The dark horse play of the day in the Derby today is number 11, Disarm. And we'll see how that one works out. The dark horse plays of the day worked out okay up at Saratoga. We'll see if we can follow it up with a good Triple Crown season again. Appreciate the support from everybody up in Saratoga. Dark Horse Mercantile and Impressions of Saratoga. Stop by. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will move on
to the middle part of the card
on a big Kentucky Derby day. Stay tuned.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at CapitalOTB.com.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report, the Derby Day Handicappers Report.
Tremendous.
Seth, Merrow, and Anthony Mormino. We've gone through the first 5. We're into the stakes portion of the program already, and we continue that in race number 6, a restricted stake for $175,000. The Knicks go overnight at 1 mile, and down at Churchill, that's a 1-turn mile.
And the Knicks are going. This is actually probably the stakes race I had the least amount of feel for. You see my
I'm
picks
right
up there. 11, 6, and 3. And as I've said many times to the audience that, to me, when it's like this, you just can't land on the short price horses. My shorter price horses are underneath. I love after today, Baby Yoda for the average consumer will be okay, because that 114 is going to be off the page. I hope he has like 7 more races in his life and he can run those 93s or 94s, etc. But the 114 will be gone. I'm 11.
I mean, he has turned out to be okay.
Oh, he's been okay.
He's never lived up to that crazy number.
He's and the thing that I've said years ago, and forget the fact that Naira, we couldn't time the mile and 3/8 Sheepshead Bay yesterday. That's embarrassing in this century. But I never trust 6.5 at Saratoga. I don't trust the teletimer. I don't trust the buyers. So it's 11.63 for me. And on a different day, I'll go into. I actually have not a theory, but I have data that shows it's really not practical. And I've said this before the other night. It's like Baby Yoda, that number never came back. You had those Derby winners that ran a 104 and they ran 90 the rest of their career. I don't, as a former athlete and a runner, it doesn't work like that. You can't run a once in a lifetime thing and never be close to it again.
And that's just a mind-boggling. 114.
By the way, never fooled by it. I dismissed Baby Yoda's 114 from the jump, and I never got hurt. They bet him, and I was like...
And subsequent to that, it looked like he wasn't ever going to that. But as I say, he's turned out to be okay.
Was he at 98 cents then? That's the high watermark since
99 win 2 races back in an optional.
And I think
claim.
buyer people would say that that's not even close.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Episode 99 to 114. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So it was just a weird kind of an aberration, certainly. 2, 6, 3, and 9 for me. I put Massacre Parade on top. Mentioned earlier with the Asmussen runner, but this one for Alstall. Kind of second level 3-year-old a couple seasons ago, won the Ohio Derby and has shown some talent throughout the career. A little bit of an abbreviated season last year. Now comes back as a 5-year-old. Bullet Workout kind of jumped out at me. So I tilted towards that in a race that I totally agree. It, to me, is a real puzzle. Zozos, I thought, for Brad Cox, had shown some ability throughout the career. Then Baby Yoda down in the 3rd spot. Knee Deep in Snow might be a little bit interesting for Marshall Graham's 10 strike. And Matt Shearer has a little bit of positional early speed, might benefit from the seasonal debut. But to me, it's a puzzle. I have it 2, 6, 3, and 9.
I agree. On to the 7th race, 5.5 furlongs, the Grade 2 Turf Sprint.
I went 10, 11, 4, and 14. I put Arrest Me Red on top for Wesley Ward. Comes out of the seasonal debut in the Shakertown, having run behind Caravel, who looked great yesterday.
Keeps on keeping on.
She is, and then now they're talking about Royal Ascot potentially for her, but boy, she was really good yesterday. But again, a close-up third to her, and maybe that performance yesterday flatters Arrest Me Red a little bit. So I'll put that one on top. You look down the page, and clearly a best effort from Arrest Me Red is going to put him right in the thick of things. Motorious put in a best effort last time, a nice win at Santa Anita back in March in the San Simeon, and I think based on that performance, maybe this horse has just gotten really good now as a 5-year-old. If that form holds, he becomes an interesting player in here. And then I'm going to go to Big Invasion, part of Dean Reeves' really good 2022, certainly his really good Saratoga season. I mean, this horse last year was just phenomenal. 6 wins and 8 starts, including the 2 stakes races up at Saratoga. The comebacker was certainly promising, so Big Invasion intriguing to me in here as well. I have a 10, 11, 4, and 14.
If I'd asked you 10 years ago, do you think there'll be a $500,000 turf sprint
I would have said
in the United States? I think you're going to see more of them. I think this is, for many reasons, and not the best of reasons, this has become a thing.
No, it has become a thing. And not only would I have said, I don't think it'll happen, I would have said, I don't want it to happen, because when turf sprinting really became a thing in the country, to me, it was a complete puzzle. But now it's become such a norm that it isn't as much of a puzzle. But in the beginning, it was.
I'm 13, 11, 4. I like Artemis City Limits getting to the outside post. I'm discounting the most recent effort buried down inside. A little shocking upset here for a sharp barn. 13, 11, and 4.
8th race this afternoon. It is the Pat Day Mile, as the name suggests, 1 mile and the 1-turn mile. It's a Grade 2 event. $500,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-olds.
The Michigan Mile used to be 1 mile and an 1/8. But I think the technical term was the Michigan Mile and an 1/8, but they always call it the Michigan Mile. We were talking the other night. I'm pretty sure I'm right. This is the old Derby trial.
Yeah.
12, 9, 11, and Gun Pilot. Steve Asmussen and Tyler Gaffleone. Congratulations to Tyler yesterday. I'm throwing out the Rebel in the slop. Doesn't work for me, but in exactas the rest of their career. I didn't look at the weather, but the weather was gorgeous yesterday, and they didn't say anything on the broadcast, so I think that's what we're dealing with. For a second, General Jim for Shug coming off of the victory in the Swale. That was right after Groundhog Day. And then Gilmore for third, coming out of Brendan Walsh, who had a career day. And I don't usually, I have no affinity for pregame or postgame, but the Nick Luck interview with him, I mean, only like 2 minutes, was tremendous. One thing I love about Europeans is how their understated enthusiasm. Like, they're just not over the top. He was very well grounded. It was a great 3 minutes for Brendan. 12, 9, 11.
I went 9, 5, 12, and 7. I put General Jim on top. I think General Jim might have a little bit of a future in the division, and we'll find out more about that today. But certainly showed some potential with the win in the Swale. Now, it's been off since then, but this comebacker at the mile, as I say, I think bodes well for the Shug horse going forward if we get a good performance today. And as I say, I think General Jim has the potential to be a player in the 3-year-old division. Echo, again, started the career out very promisingly with the debut win up at Saratoga. Hasn't quite lived up to that, but I thought the comebacker at Oaklawn last time may point to this one moving in the right direction at maybe at the right time. Maybe heading to Derby or whatnot wasn't going to work out for this one, but maybe that, like my thoughts on General Jim, may be interesting as we get into the summertime on the 3-year-old side. And then Gun Pilot, I agree. I also think this horse is interesting coming out of that nice second down at Oaklawn last time. I think this horse has some potential as well. Fort Bragg, a little bit interesting to me also. Fun race, but I have it 9, 5, 12, and 7.
Well, imagine after they had Extra Neho and Echo again after their debuts. I think they probably thought they'd be running about 7 o'clock today. Tough game, folks. On to the 9th race. 3-year-olds, Grade 2, running for $500,000 on the turf, the American turf.
11, 2, 8, and 4. Carl Spackler. They got this going for him. Carl Spackler coming in off a couple of nice tries down at Gulfstream. It's Chad Brown and company. And again, lightly raced, maiden special weight into, a fairly salty or at least more experienced field of runners in here. But I do think there's a lot of upside for this one off of what we've seen so far. So at 3-1 in a field like this, I don't know whether I'd want too short of a price asking this one to make this leap from 2 races and maiden special into graded stakes company, but given it's Chad Brown and company, I think the potential is there. Far Bridge, another lightly raced horse. This one's kind of an interesting story. I'd love to know the story. First couple of starts of the career, 2 wins. Now goes from Christophe Clement to Todd Pletcher. So I would love to hear what the discussions were with this one to make the move like that. And then Mustache in the 3rd spot. Nice win last time in the Transylvania to kind of continue what looked like a promising career on occasion earlier, but now as a 3-year-old, I think that has blossomed to be the fact. I think this horse is now a better 3-year-old, and I could see that continuing today. And if the 10-1 price holds up, that one's interesting. For me, 11, 2, 8, and 4.
Because of the nature of American racing and the 3-year-olds and the spring being so dirt dominant, I cannot recall ever 2 3-year-olds on the turf that have been talked about with foreshadowing as Farbridge and Carl Spackler. I mean, that maiden race debut where Farbridge got the better of him and then them both following it up. just turf racing. You talk about the subdivision that you like, the 3-year-olds on the turf. Well, now in my opinion, two of the most dynamic are getting to their stakes part right now. And when I say how rare this is, remember, Lure didn't get to the turf till the second half of his 3-year-old season. I go all the way back to Manila, how long it's been since there's been this type of upside. But I'm not going for those two. Why? It's too big a field. They're highly competitive. They're too short a price. So I went for the 30-1 behind Enemy Lines, making the second start in the United States after a nice U.S. debut down at Gulfstream Park, hoping that Flavian Prat can sit a very good trip for the huge upset, 6-11. I will say this, the best 3-year-old at the end of the year might be running in that race.
That would be interesting. I think the 3-year-old crop is going to turn out to be all right, though.
I think people say that a lot, and there are a lot of years they're stiffs. They just think every Derby winner has to be good. No, they're stiffs, and that they're not very good. And I will hold out this. I don't think the 3-year-old filly division is going to be. There's going to be great betting races throughout the year, in my opinion.
The 10th race today at Churchill is the Churchill Downs. Grade 1 event, $750,000, 7 furlongs to trip, and as we alluded to earlier, White Barrio out.
Yeah, 4, 7, and 10 for me. Looking for my second upset. This one would be huge of a Breeders' Cup winner. Now, Cody's Wish is making the seasonal debut. Goodnight Olive already has the Madison in her hip pocket, but Hoist the Gold and there's only one thing I can hang my hat on here, and that's July 3rd last year at Churchill Downs, going 7/8, losing to Gunite, who many people felt under different circumstances, Steve Asmussen would have had Gunite in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And I know a lot of people that would have liked him more than Jackie's Warrior, including me, who didn't like Jackie's Warrior an inch anyways. This is my upset off the One Wish. Cody's Wish, undefeated, 4 for 4 at Churchill Downs, the champ, and then endorsed, shortening up after consecutive mile victories down at Gulfstream Park. But Hoist the Gold's got to run back to the Maxfield in here at Churchill Downs, 4, 7, 10.
I had my picks ready to go a few days ago, obviously, for the seminar, so I used White Barrio on top.
Okay.
I kind of liked the confidence builder last time, and I thought I set him up. But I'm with you. I'm not totally convinced on Cody's Wish on the comeback. Very talented, but on the seasonal comeback, I wasn't convinced. Now, though, with the scratch, I move up into him. But I think if you're looking for an alternative, to me, Tejano Twist is interesting, coming in off a couple of nice races down at Oaklawn most recently, including that Whitmore, which stands out and would certainly get it done in this bunch. Endorsed, interesting as well, coming out of a win in the Gulfstream Park Mile. So I think there's a couple of different directions to go, but I'm with you. I unfortunately scratch into Cody's Wish, but I'm not totally convinced there. 7, 6, and 10.
That's because you're a believer that White Barrio is a grade 1 horse, and I am not convinced that just because you win a grade 1 against restrictor. Where's Charger, by the way? I only wait for the second super horse coming out of that race. We'll take our final break. When we come back, not to worry, because on the 11th race, you have another pick 4 coming at you.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, because at 5:27, around then, race 11 kicks off, and you can bet a pick 4 kicking off with the Turf Classic.
I'm hoping people out there in the audience are alive to the today pick 3 that includes the Turf Classic and the Derby, because the Oaks, I'm sure it was pick 3 yesterday, the Oaks into the Turf Classic and the Derby. And if you had that Oaks winner and you're alive to this pick 3, it'll be a nice
I know
pick 3.
she paid a big price, and I know shouldn't she have been in the hopper for a lot of, I'm like, wasn't she like a top 4 player? I didn't, maybe I'm slanted because I didn't like wet paint, and obviously a lot of people would like wet paint and think I'm cuckoo. But if you didn't like her,
I know Vic liked her.
If you didn't like wet paint, isn't she in the list of the next group?
But I've given her win. I think it had to juice up the pick a little.
This race might too.
And like I said, I didn't look at that would tilt things if you looked at the double, what the double payouts were.
Oh, absolutely. I want to see. I'm aching to see who you went to.
Okay. 9, 3, 5, and 10. I put Spooky Channel on top. 8 years old, but still seems to be spry at 8, having won a couple of stakes this season down at the fairgrounds. They bookend an okay third at Sam Houston. I think the horse, as I say, in good form, comes in off a triple-digit buyer win. Joe Rosario sticks on board. It's a field that to me, nobody was jumping off the page. And so Spooky Channel, as I say, at 8, I think is still cooking. So Wolfie's Dynaghost comes in off a nice win over a Turfway on the synthetic, and I think that bodes well for this afternoon. And at a price, I think he could be interesting. And up to the mark, Pletcher, Rapoli and company, relatively lightly raced for a 4-year-old and ran third in the Maker's Mark Mile. But before that, had a couple of nice wins since moving to the grass. So it seems like it took a while, but they found the proper surface for this one. And now with that experience all under the belt, including a stakes try last time, I could see a good performance there. So for me, 9, 3, 5, and 10.
Well, relatively speaking, would you and I be like 6 or 7-year-olds? We're certainly not 3-year-olds, and we're probably not 4-year-olds.
I don't know. That's I'm thinking 8 is more like a 30-something. I'm thinking.
Okay. I have one. I have my.
Well, wait a minute. You're saying we could go out there and run with top quality at our?
No. In the life spectrum.
But at the life spectrum for these guys, they can live to be 30.
Yeah, no, but the racing spectrum, a 10-year-old is about the top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I'm looking at the whole life span of the horse.
Yeah, but we 7, 4, 9. We give 3 picks, but my opinion in this race is I like Hong Kong Harry. I like the comeback race in the Kilrow off of the late November to March effort, finished off the board as the beaten favorite. And one thing you should know about Phil D'Amato, not only that he's an SC guy, but Phil D'Amato, he got the memo of staying out of everything Bob Baffert does. Phil D'Amato has been like a turf guy, 3-year-olds on the turf. He doesn't compete at all against Bob Baffert, 7, 4, and 9. And I can cut my whole lawn, and I have a nice size lawn in the whole time in the gap and not miss anything because you have 90 minutes before the Derby. Folks, I kid you not.
To mow
the whole lawn. And you can put a tennis court and a pool in my backyard. But you have 90 minutes in between the two. I don't know what you're going to do. I am not going to be fixated to the television for 90 minutes, whatever they're going to talk about on NBC. What do you do in those 90 minutes? Does the rest of the racing world take a timeout, or will everybody run during that window?
I think everybody goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody.
Because if you remember, I've talked from time to time the gap at Belmont Park. I always think they should get the card done before it, but there have been years when they've kind of put the pause button and run after the Derby.
Yeah, you're right. That's right.
Well, for the 175,000 people that are live into the pick 4, the pick 5s, you're going to wait till 6:57.
Well, part of that is that walkover is a big ceremonial thing now.
That's like 4 minutes. Okay, so what do we do with the other 86?
Is it only?
Absolutely.
I would put it at more like 10 or 15. Because now they pick them up back at the barn, and they're talking to people, and then the whole procession comes over, and they talk.
Isn't it about the same amount of time that the other horses walk over from the barn area to the paddock?
20, because they're also doing interviews with people on the walk. That's always, to me, awkward. Is their walk.
I always wondered, do they ask them ahead of time, do you want to do it? I'd be like, I don't want to do it. I said, it's dopey.
Well, except for some people, they're Derby, and you got the one Derby horse, and you want to play it up, and so for some. But getting back to Spooky Channel, I wish I was still as good as Spooky Channel.
That's right.
The Y basketball, I'd be like all over the place.
Who is this guy?
Here we are, 12th race this afternoon, this evening, 6:57. It is the Kentucky Derby, Grade 1 event, $3 million up for grabs, 1.25 miles. Again,
who's left?
Yeah, for just to update you here, we lost in this period. It was like about a 2-hour period. We lost Practical Move, Lord Miles, and Continue R.
Skinner killed me.
And then yesterday there was the late announcement. Well, I say later than the other three, but it was fairly early yesterday. Skinner out with a little bit of a temperature as well. So we've now pulled in all of the AEs.
Look at that,
here.
folks. And I'll tell you one thing: if the dark horse is in the T-shirt business and they put out this T-shirt, they're all set.
Yeah,
anybody that puts out this T-shirt is a genius. And I would think in this day and age, that's not that hard.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
just digital.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, here you go. So good luck. And obviously, everybody knows that in the back of my mind, if I don't win, I want the 21, the 22, or the 23 to win. So the T-shirts are wrong again. It's a great betting race. I say it all the time. Probably about 5 of these horses are going to be claimers soon enough. I think the 17 is going to be the wise guy horse. I don't trust Forte. I never listen to trainers anymore. I don't want blips on the screen. I'm shocked, and this horse is doomed. I know people hate him, think he's got no chance, but I'm disarmed. I was disarmed and Skinner. Before I'm disarmed now, and Angel of Empire, who I know we talked about is getting bet. But I agree with Seth. I think that the Lexington is not a problem. I think that, it used to be 2 weeks. It's 3 weeks now. I know in today's methodology that seems short, but I think it's okay. And I think we're going forward. That's all that I really care about. We're going forward. And I love the effort. Same reason I like Gambling Girl coming out of her Gazelle. Disarm, in my opinion, had little to no chance in the Louisiana Derby. Might have been running on the better part of the track, but as the race unfolded, had no chance against Kingsbarn, who was also running on perhaps the better part of the track. Now, I need Joel Rosario, who I have carried the water for, to do better than whoever had Wonder Wheel, and I had her in the bottom tickets. I like Disarm. 3 weeks is enough for me. And offering a gun runner, tap it on the bottom. Skinner's out, but that's fine. Angel of Empire, to me, coming out of the victory in the Arkansas Derby for Brad Cox, can move forward easily enough. And Confidence Game, I talked about on the seminar how he doesn't play in the upper echelon. Yes, he's won an American Classic, but I love how Keith DeSormo is how he trains horses. He comes from a family of the horse people, but I have a Confidence Game underneath. I won't go through it on this show, but I talked about it. I'll be using Verifying, two fills, and Tap It Twice. That's the 2, the 3, the 5 underneath. It's turned out to be a very unique race with all these scratches, and to me, the doubt over Forte, but I am all disarmed.
And the doubt over Forte.
I thought you were disarmed too.
Disarms my price play in
there. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I like Angel of Empire.
All right. Well, there you go.
But
so
to clarify on Forte, for folks who maybe aren't plugged in on weekdays in particular, we have probably weekend viewers. Thursday when he was working, he took kind of a funny step, and Twitter was abuzz with, oh, he's going to scratch. He's going to scratch. He was out on the track yesterday. Twitter was abuzz with videos galore of Forte working, and subsequently Todd Pletcher said, no, I'm very happy with the way he worked today, meaning yesterday, Friday. But I'm sure.
Even before that step, did you find he's been one of the most lukewarm favorites from a major player? Like, there doesn't seem to be that momentum of like.
Well, I said it.
Somebody said that's the horse Mattress Mac is betting, by the way, which is really bad.
I said at the seminar that Steve Bick had Andy Beyer on the radio earlier this week, and Andy Beyer thought Forte was probably the favorite, but would be 9-2 or 5-1, something like that.
Well, I thought the favorite would be 5-1,
which is kind of lukewarm. And
we're
we are clearly in that ballpark at 4-1.
Yeah,
I will say, I don't know if I mentioned it before, Two Phil's taking some action at 8-1.
He's the buzz horse. Because Two Phil's, the question has been the same that I had with Botanical the other day. You can beat me. I mean, Animal Kingdom beat me 12 years ago. You can beat me. I'm against the Jeff Ruby Stakes.
He tossed in the triple-digit
How about
buyer.
Rich Strike again?
Yeah, that was rough yesterday. But for me, it's 14, 15, 11, and 22. And
22? How could you not?
I'm going to use Tapit Trice
What's
in my
the
mix
saddle
as
cloth?
well. That's a good question. I wonder, are these correct? Yeah, they're.
If the 12 is lime, they're correct.
So 22 is kind of a navy blue.
Awesome.
I'm going to put Angel of Empire on top. I like the horse in the last two races, Risen Star and the Arkansas Derby. If you're a numbers person, probably has to step it up a little bit, but not necessarily much. And given what we've seen in the last three, I think maybe he's just kind of an improving 3-year-old and improving at absolutely the right time of the year. So we'll use Angel of Empire on top. I have Forte in the second spot. And, we alluded to it just a moment ago. I think there are question marks on, again, buyers are a tool in the toolbox, but the buyers are going in the wrong direction here. And so to me, there's, it's worth a little bit of skepticism. But how much skepticism do you have when a horse is 6 for 7 and has done it very nicely so far? So in my mix. And then Disarm, who, again, was the dark horse play of the day, but he's my price play in here. Obviously, I'll have some win money on at the current price, and I'll have these horses all mixed up in exactas and whatnot, because Disarm is going to be the one that's going to add value to that scenario. Pulled in, mentioned it at the seminar Wednesday night when we did the seminar. Mandarin Hero was too deep on the AE list, and I said how unfortunate that he doesn't get in, because that performance to me in the Santa Anita Derby just was one to deserve a shot at the Kentucky Derby. And so I'm happy he's in. I'm going to use him given what we saw in the Santa Anita Derby. And as I say, Tapit Trice, 4 for 5 for Pletcher. And I think another one that could be moving in the right direction. I'm not going to leave him out of my mix either. You mentioned Confidence Game. That one scares me. Two Phil scares me. Verifying. Dermis Otagaki, I think off of the UAE Derby, that one could be a player. I've liked Sun Thunder throughout the career. I'm not that high on him really this afternoon, but I think he's going to be a price. And I have some future wagers that play into him, so I'm covered in case he does upset things. Hit Show, I think. And what was Hit Show this morning?
Hit Show's taking a lot he's taking a lot.
33-1.
A lot of buzz.
But there is some buzz on Hit Show. You're absolutely right. And I thought the scenario ran second in the Wood, but they skipped the Gotham because they didn't want to cut back. So I give them a little more credit off of that layoff for the performance in the Wood. So again, this may play into what you're talking about, this 3-year-old crop, that you can point to 12 in here and have an equal level of confidence. And
I know you have a good relation with Ron Moquette, but it'd be like, King Russell got in. What were your thoughts on that?
Boy, he was high on the horse though. But
now, just so people should know, this is my 26th consecutive spring summer with OTB. I only have 4 winners of the Derby. My ROI is 960 now, and my horse is 30-1 today. On to the 13th. We'll go through these quickly. Both days, Churchill Downs did a great job giving the people 2 walkout races. You might need 3 for this crowd size. It's a great idea. So we have, we're going to go a mile on the 16th, optional claimers in the 13th at 7:55.
2, 6, 9, and 10. I'm going to put Evoke on top. Pletcher, Irad Ortiz on board.
That's an hour later.
But
So
for
in
this
2.5 hours, you have 1 horse race.
This one's a little more understandable because after the Derby, you have the whole ceremony and everything, and the jocks got to get back to the
20 minutes. But that's so 2.5 hours you have the Derby.
Yeah, it's the lead up to the Derby is the crazy thing, hour and a half. But Evoke on top, looked good in the debut, solid number, probably has an edge on this field if we get back to that. Promise Me a Ride also looked good in debut for Brad Cox. Wasn't off the turfer though. So that takes a little of the edge up, but still a nice performance. And Let It Ride, George Weaver runner for Randy Hill and Dean Reeves and company, could be interesting in here. And if that 12-1 holds up, that may be the direction to go if you're looking for a price. Asmus and Shopper's Revenge, who I think could be a player as well. But I have a 2, 6, 9, and 10.
Now, you've had Mr. Reeves on before, right?
Yeah.
And there's a chance you could have him on again.
Yeah.
And I'll remind you of this. They must love the movie. Let It Ride. Greatest movie ever made. If I see him, I'm asking him directly off camera.
My guess would be that's probably more a Randy Hill.
Okay.
He seems more like into the Let It Ride kind of mentality.
All right, then, because that's it. So that's race 13 an hour.
The finale, 8:30. Thank God for the lights down at Churchill. Race number 14.
And this was strobe last year.
Maiden specials going for $120,000. Although these, I will say that the purses at Churchill, part of that is Kentucky-bred funds. If you're not a Kentucky-bred, you may not be racing for quite as much. But 7 furlongs the trip.
This was the same condition they ran last year. The same exact race. That's Joe Brand, the hole in the win for Godolphin. I'm 7, 14, 11 in here, and Noble Reality making the second career start. I've said this before. I like that type of debut where you give me something, and then you collapse. They're taking blinkers off. I think we're going to get some relaxation there. If you don't follow the circuit very much, but Brian Hernandez and Ken McPeak are an item, so it's 7, 14, 11 for me.
And I said yesterday Ken McPeak had a winner, and I said the last 2 weeks or so, it seems like Ken McPeak's been on a little bit of a roll, so I didn't use that one.
And I think that day it was Brian Hernandez with him. It was midday. I was watching your show. You're talking 2 days ago, right? Thursday?
Sounds right.
Yes. Yep, midday.
2, 14, 9, and 11. Again, I didn't use the 7, but I wouldn't argue with the price and the way Ken McPeak's going. But ever so mischievous, Brad Cox runner just missed in debut at a short price. Makes amends for that today, I think. Dillinger on the outside. Nice series of improving numbers coming in from Southern California. Johnny V on board, and Mulligan in the 3rd spot off a couple of decent tries so far. So for me, in the finale, 2, 14, 9, and 11.
Boy, I'll tell you, Johnny V, for being in the saddle over 30 years, he's still got game. Big-time game.
He really does. And
usually,
it's a great guy and
not the case.
Respected by everybody. He's one of the role models for the younger jockeys. And I was thinking the other day, he has reached that status because I saw a headline that referred to him as Johnny V. So he doesn't need to use the whole name anymore. Johnny V.
Okay. I mean, doesn't everybody in New York, has he been that like for 20 years?
I don't know whether it was like something you could put in a headline though.
Okay.
To me, that's
fair. But he's, I'm thinking he's 49's got to be the baseline minimum. I'm thinking closer to 52. I mean, he's been doing this for 33 years.
Yeah.
Maybe he was 16 or 17. Remember who his first agent was? Maybe the greatest trivia question in horse racing. Because most people obviously know he was with Angel for all those years. And not only that, because this guy is probably more famous
when you say it, I'm going to know
than Johnny
it,
V is.
I can't think of it now.
Dick Allen.
Okay.
Richie Allen, the great baseball player, was his first agent. But at the minimum, he's got to be 50. He's been doing it for 33 years. He had to be 17, let's say, but he's still tremendous.
Yeah,
great shape. Mind is great. It's Derby Day. I mean, come on down. It's a great betting card, 14 races. Weather supposed to be fantastic. Belmont, it's day 3. They're not doing talking horses. They didn't do it yesterday. They're not doing it today. So, good luck. I mean, this Derby has been crazy the last 72 hours. And I think you heap on the fact that the favorite has some rumblings. I've always said this. I love chaos. I don't like $6.40 horses. I love chaos. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes today and my prediction of the next 6 or 7 months with this group. But King Russell is in the 23 horse. I can't wait to see the Saddle Club. Have a great Kentucky fun. Derby 2023.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.